Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. And yourself?
Not bad.
Awesome. Let me just get my co-host in here.
Okay.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. It is a live show.
Okay. It's okay.
There we go. And this is Evil Dua. That's what we call him, at least.
Okay.
Um, so thank you for coming on the show. We introduced you prior to actually calling you.
Okay.
So
Not a
um,
problem.
So I'm actually really excited to kind of get in on this. So first and foremost, we were actually talking about um, you know, Dawn of Ashes, at the beginning of the show. We've been on for
Hmm.
about an hour now. And one thing that the both of us has noticed throughout our research of trying to find anything out about Dawn of Ashes or any of you guys is that there really isn't anything out there. There really isn't much as far as like interviews or like anything like that. Just like kind of like really just kind of like promotional material. Is that intentional or
No, I mean there are interviews out there. I don't know. They're on YouTube, and I don't know if there's just a ton, but there are there are interviews out there. But
okay?
I mainly the ones who does all the interviews.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured. Yeah, I had an inkling that it was going to be you, but I wasn't sure because I remember I sent an email and I asked her, "So may I ask who I'm speaking with?" Because I contacted you directly through the Dawn of Ashes Twitter, so I wasn't sure who answered. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's like so when you didn't answer the question, I was kind of like, okay, that's cool.
Maybe I
So
didn't read it. Sorry.
no, it's all right. It was good for build up because it's kind of like a running joke like the whole week. Like we're going to be interviewing somebody from Dawn of Ashes. We just have no idea who.
Yeah.
so so give the people a little bit like where where's this kind of like this energy coming from with Dawn of Ashes? Like so I remember when I saw the first time I saw a video from you guys wasn't that long ago. It was about the time that you guys kind of followed me on Twitter, um, and you guys blew me away. Like, I mean, I've always been into like Cyclone Nine, BAAL, stuff like that. And when I saw your guys' shit, I was like, holy fuck! Like somebody still does have like a pair of nuts, you know. Um, so where does that like that raw kind of like fuck you energy come from?
I mean, same with Cyclone 9. We both started as purely industrial acts. Both are inspired by metal. So, I mean, I'm the main writer of Dawn of Ashes, and I'm, inspired by, black metal, hardcore, industrial music. So, I've always just been into aggressive, heavy type of music. So, I mean, that's just what I'm familiar with writing.
They just kind of run it off of that and just kind of say, just make it as aggressive and as evil as possible.
Yeah, I guess so. You know,
Is
I
that yeah,
just
that was an oh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, it's okay. No, I just I've always been in bands that have been just have a lot of energy and aggression. So, I mean, that's what DOA is all about.
It's one of the things that like I kind of noticed. Like I've always had an appreciation with bands that um, don't have issue with making themselves match their music, right?
Right.
Because one thing, for example, has always irritated me about, for example, like Metallica. Like I'm not taking anything away from them. Like Metallica's they're huge, whatever. But it was always strange. Like you get these really heavy songs, and then the guy comes out looking like Farmer John, and it's just kind of like, did I miss something?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's always been. I mean, there's certain bands that I grew up loving, where it's like a complete package. It's um, not just the music; it's the imagery. It's everything. The music videos, the artwork. I feel like it's all. pretty much essential. And I'll take a band like Behemoth. I love that band, and you look at their imagery and their music videos and everything about them, and it's just all, it's like a package thing. Um, I mean, there are bands I like where it's jeans and a t-shirt, and um, they play their music, but they have to have something that backs them up, like their live show or something. If it's just bunch of dudes playing music and it's fucking boring, I don't know. I don't really get it.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, I'm a bit older than Malice. I come from the 70s, 80s sort of metal era myself.
Right.
But imagery seemed to be even back then. I mean, we were talking about earlier about bands such as Kiss and
It's funny. I was just about to mention
Alice
them.
Cooper. Yeah, I mean, the imagery is what set them apart from everybody else in that era.
Right.
And they were sort of pushing boundaries even back then. So then you move into sort of 2000s, and you had bands like Slipknot, Mushroomhead, and those guys with that type of imagery. Now, what I'm actually interested in is, again, with the research that we did, sort of even with the imagery, almost everything that's available on the internet in relation to DOA seems to be promotional stuff. There's not a lot of images of you guys, the band members yourselves, outside of promotional photos and professionally done photos. So the imagery that you portray on stage and with the band is that everyday life, everyday stuff for you? Like, are you into personally? Are you, for want of a better term, into that goth culture or the darker side of things, or is that purely for DOA and the imagery itself?
I mean, it's not like I sit in my bedroom with blood all over me, and
No, I get that.
I if I do personally, if I do go out to somewhere, you know, I do fit my image sometimes on
Yeah.
stage. Maybe not as extreme, but I mean, live and everything is kind of an outlet. I just feel like it's a part of, like I said, the package with DOA. It's like our music videos. I mean, every time we do a music video, we need to step up a notch every single time.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
it's the same thing with the progression of an album. Like I hear what I've done back in 2005 compared to what I'm doing now, and there's just a progression. So I feel like every sort of step in the history of Dawn of Ashes, it has to step up a notch. So that's included with the imagery and everything else we do.
oh, for sure. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, so I've only just recently been turned on to DOA personally, and I was talking to Mouse about it before. I personally, throughout the years, I never really got into the industrial side of it, or the electronic side of the music, the sort of metal genre. But imagery, video, like your guys' music, the use of samples from horror movies, science fiction movies, and things like that. I mean, that speaks to me because I'm an absolute horror freak. So I enjoy it from that perspective, and obviously the imagery as well. I mean, that's right up my alley. So
yeah, and for me, I personally, I mean, when I grew up, there was a few industrial bands that I liked. I mean, one of my favorite groups is Nine Inch Nails, so I grew up with that. But I definitely grew up listening to metal and hardcore music, and then I think maybe late 90s, early 2000, I started progressively getting more into industrial, and I got heavily into Skinny Puppy, and they're extremely theatrical and it fits the music. Another one of my favorite groups is Cradle of Filth. It's early Cradle of Filth. It's just I can't really speak for what they do now, but when I first saw Cradle of Filth and heard them, I was just like, whoa, what is this? It like confused me at first, the whole thing about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and then I was just like, man, this is fucking crazy. This is, I think that was why. I mean, the first band that got me into wanting to do the music and the theatric was White Zombie, and earlier Manson, and then it became like Cradle of Filth.
Yeah.
So, and I noticed it was just like when you listen to music and then you saw images of them, you're like, this is fucking insane, you know. And I grew up in the hardcore scene, so there's a lot of energy on stage. There's a lot of interaction with the band and the band and the fans.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I kind of was just like, you know, punk rock, hardcore. I wanted to do. That's where I got a lot of my inspiration from, musically and, you know, image wise. I was very into black metal as well, so, you know, there's a whole theatrics behind that as well.
And it all
So
seems to fit very well too. I mean, the correlation between black metal and industrial, even right down to the electronic part of it, it all seems to gel very, very well in what you guys do.
Yeah.
Love the latest album. I've been listening to that all week. And yeah, so it's just one, because it's not something that I really was into earlier in my early years, and listening to your typical hard. I mean, I was a hard rock fan. I was 80s, 90s hair metal. That was me. And it's only been the last sort of 10 years that I've started sort of getting into the different types of metal, black metal and industrial and things like that. So,
Sure.
but no, love the latest album. It's great. It's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, I was just listening to Wasp. I mean, I'm
I
all
love
into,
Wasp.
yeah.
Black
So,
Wasp,
but
great
yeah,
band.
yeah. But there's a package deal right there, even with, you know, glam metal and all that. They have an
Oh,
imagery.
definitely.
So I don't know. I'd rather see that than if they were just looking like, I don't know, wearing a flannel and some ripped blue jeans or
Well,
something
I
like that.
think that's where the metal genre in itself became sort of out there, was because the imagery was different. Even going back, let's say going right back to through the late 70s into the 80s and 90s, now into 2000s and beyond,
Hmm.
the imagery's changed. Definitely, I think it's gotten more hardcore for a lot of these guys, and yourselves included, because people are now more desensitized to the darker stuff that most of us sort of grew up with, and we enjoy it ourselves, like the horror and things like that.
Right.
And I was talking to Alice earlier about when you guys first started compared to today. I mean, 20 years, a lot's happened in 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, I would imagine 20 years ago it would have been harder for you guys to be recognized. I guess you could say it would have been more underground than what it is today. I mean, obviously, people are able to access your music a lot easier today through social media, YouTube, Spotify, things like that, compared to what they would have been able to do 20 years ago.
I'd say yes and no. I mean, I think there was a period in between where it was a lot easier. I think in the beginning it was harder, and then in the middle it was a lot easier, and then now it's in this kind of weird point because now social media puts a lot of blocking on things because of the whole algorithm
Sure, yeah.
thing. And you know, back then with MySpace, it was easier for people to discover new bands. So I think you know, Facebook has kind of ruined a lot of that.
Facebook has ruined a lot of everything.
Yeah. It's been,
I mean, there's been a lot of things put in place over the last few years that have definitely made it more difficult for new musicians, especially to break out, and obviously now with existing musicians as well. So,
all right.
So I got a question here.
Sure.
So you're talking about your influences, Cradle of Filth. You have a lot of from what I'm seeing, like your influences are very much on kind of like what would be considered kind of like a traditional kind of like metal standpoint, right? So what made you make the decision to go agrotech? I mean, for lack of a better label.
Well, when we first started, I guess, I mean, that's kind of like a weird term or whatever genre it's called. Because when we first started, I think we were one of the bands out of a few that started that agrotech sort of thing. I mean, this was way back in the early 2000s, and because when I first heard that term, I was like, "What the fuck is agrotech?" And I'm like, "Okay, if that's what you want to call it." But anyways,
I mean, according to your wiki page, just to interject here just briefly, just to sort of reiterate on that, they labeled you guys in the early 2000s as horror-based dark electronic, electronic body music, electro or agrotech is what the terms that they used, which was just weird in itself.
I mean, I'm definitely familiar with those genres, but I mean, it's just weird hearing it. I don't know. I think it's either like EBM or industrial. But anyways, so when we started out, we were purely whatever, agrotech, dark electro, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then there was a point where I did a kind of like a huge change, and we became like completely extreme metal. And I was kind of neglecting the fans who were, you know, into the earlier albums, and I feel like that was kind of hurt us in a way. And so I started slowly bringing back the elements of that. But I think with the recent album, the Antinomian, like I've told a lot of people, I was inspired by 90s industrial, like 90s and 80s industrial, mainly like 90s. So like, you know, Ministry and Nine Inch Nails. So, I mean, you can call it agrotech, but I don't really feel like the new album is agrotech. I would just call it industrial.
I mean, that's kind of why, I went with, for lack of a better label.
Yeah, I mean, because I've been listening to this album pretty religiously last sort of 6 or 7 days. Definitely wouldn't class it as agrotech. It's definitely got a really industrial feel to it, which I think is really cool, because I mean I love bands like Rammstein and again Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, guys like that as well. So that has that real industrial feel to it, and the elements of horror, the music videos. I mean, the videos are awesome too. I mean, I love the imagery in the videos.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of different approaches I wanted to do with this album, from writing the album to the theme of the album, because I kind of wanted to pinpoint how I view society. And it's funny because I wrote this album way before all this stuff happened with the, you know, coronavirus and the protests and everything. I wrote this before. You know, I've always had this kind of view on our society, and then all of a sudden this stuff happens, and then the album comes out, and everybody's just like the lyric video I released with all the riots, and they're like, "Did you intentionally do this?" I'm like, I didn't know this was gonna happen. You know, so I just think it's a coincidence that this album came out at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you guys have always, like, one of the things that I love about like watching your videos, listening to your music, is you always you're one of the few bands that I can find now that touch on things that are important. And like you mentioned, society, politics, religion, you know, there's a lot of like religious undertones or anti-religious undertones in the videos. Some of them blatantly, like they're just like in your face, which are the fun ones. Where does kind of like the religious aspect of it kind of fit in with you? So there's a lot of people out there that I'm sure like are going to ask you this question. I feel like an idiot for asking it. But are you Satanists, or where does and I understand when I say Satanist, I understand what is LaVeyan Satanism, that it's basically like theatrical, word slips my mind. basically being kind of atheist.
Atheistic.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, like theatrical atheism. So I understand that. But I'm just curious, like, where does it kind of like, where do you stand with it?
So I'm not going to speak for the rest of the band, but I'm not a LaVey Satanist. I do follow something called the left-hand path, which there is a form of Satanism that is in that whole. It is a sect of the left-hand path, but I'm not an atheist. Um, I am against monotheistic religions. Um, the whole concept of the left-hand path is, you have something within you that's powerful, and you're not a slave to anything. And yeah, there's LaVey Satanism that's very, atheist, but
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not. It's not theatrical to me. It's not a theatrical thing. So a lot of I don't know which music video you're actually referring to, but if it's the Serpents of Eden, there's a lot of symbols in the video that represent a lot of oppression that religion, these type of religions put on people.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole concept of left-hand path is, free will. You have a power to be your own god, and a lot of people don't follow that. They follow what we call the herd mentality. And I talk a lot about that in the new album. In society right now, everybody's using someone else's brain instead of their own. So no, I'm not a Satanist, because but to someone who doesn't understand it, I guess you could call me that.
They
But I'm not a
could
Satanist.
they could easily kind of misconstrue.
They can generalize.
Yep,
it as
I
exactly.
think a lot of people do that, though. I think we strike it as well, both Melissa and I, with imagery that we portray even in our live content and stuff like that. People misconstrue what they see based on their own sort of limited knowledge of these things too. So,
But
Yeah,
it's
and
limited.
it would take me, I don't know, a whole interview to explain my whole concept of what
I would be
follow with
down
the-
for that. I would be down for that, because you're the second person that I've heard mention the left-hand path. The first person I heard mention it was Ghosty Mane. He was the first one that I heard mention it, and he's talking about like Aleister Crowley and kind of all of that kind of goes into what he believes. So it's new to me. It's new to me. Like I grew up in the 90s, so like I was that weird kid in high school reading the Satanic Bible, one out of interest, and two because I just wanted to piss people off. So that was kind of me. So I would be completely down, like sitting down with you for a couple of hours to hash that out if you'd be willing to do that at a later date.
Yeah, I would definitely love to. There's just a lot to it, and it's like you can hear me kind of like, I don't know, kind of stumbling around it, because it's so hard to kind of make it a simple answer. Because
we'd
really,
definitely be down to.
if I was
talk
talking about
that
LaVey
further,
Satanism, I can have a really simple answer and be like, "Yep, believe in myself. I have these satanic guidelines, but no, what I'm involved in is way more complex than atheist. Being an atheist." So.
Well, I would be. We'll definitely have to set that up because I'm totally down for that.
Oh, for
Sure. It's funny you mentioned Ghost Main, is that he's like one artist that I've been talking about that I would love to tour with, and I know that I know he does whatever
Rap, like
trap
not,
music.
yeah, it's like
actually
trap.
I like his music, but
I love it. I love his music.
Yeah. But I know we seem to have very similar things that we're into. So
Yeah. I mean, I also noticed that like some of his more recent material has gotten a lot more closely related to what it is that you guys are doing currently. Like if you've listened to some
right.
of his newer stuff, it's not so much rap anymore as it is kind of like I would kind of like describe it as like the Misfits on crack. Is the only way I know how to describe it, because it's aggressive, it's fast paced. I honestly think new, like this new style of rap that's coming out, like between Scarlord, Ghosty Mane, Suicide Boys, all of these types of rappers, that the content is shifting, and it's shifting hard. So that leads me into another good question. How do you pivot on that? Like when you see the music industry like changing, like how does DOA pivot like inside of the industry?
So there's a point where it used to kind of dig underneath my skin. I'm like, trying to move around these obstacles to, get to the top. And now I'm kind of like it's just so challenging being in the music industry now. Um, that for example, this album, I'm like, I'm going to just write what I want to write and not give a fuck. I don't care if no one likes it, because I don't know. People's attention spans now are just, it's just crazy now. It's very hard being in this industry, and if you're not writing music to please yourself, then there's no real point of doing it. I mean, it's my opinion.
It's very similar. Like I asked the same question to Daniel Graves from Aesthetic Perfection last month, and really similar. Like it was just one of those things. It's like it really isn't. His opinion is he kind of hates the music industry as it is, and just prefers to maintain himself as an independent artist 100%, without any backing, and just to kind of stay away from kind of like the bullshit that's kind of like constantly cropping up in it.
Right. I mean, luckily we got on we've been on a bunch of labels, but the recent label Artifact, they're actually treating us very well. And it's it's kind of shocking with how the music industry is. But I've always just had the concept that I'm just gonna say what I want, do what I want, and not give a shit. I mean, obviously you can tell in the music videos. I mean, there's people that are like, I don't think you should do that, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it.
And that's what makes you guys you, and makes you guys fucking awesome. Like honestly.
Oh, definitely. Without that, we lose our individuality, and what's the point in doing it if you're not going to do what you want to do ultimately?
Right. And I think the message is important, and if you're gonna put out a message, you might want to slap someone in the face with that message. So I don't really like to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, and there's very few bands like you guys left, and in my opinion, I mean, I grew up in like when Marilyn Manson was like the shit, right? So,
Right.
For me, that was my exposure to pulling out the stops and saying, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to do it 3 times more because you said I can't."
Right. Right.
So
I like the messages I put in the Antinomian are just raw and truthful, and if people don't like hearing it, then it's obviously something that someone is personalizing, and they're part of the problem. So I even I called out myself, who I was in the past, and then I talked about who I am now, and then just everything I see through my eyes currently. So this album's just raw when it comes to the lyrics.
Well, I personally love it. I know Evil loves it.
Yeah.
I would,
think that's
I
the
would,
reason I do enjoy it,
yeah.
is because of how raw it is, and you can hear it. I mean, the whole album just feels that way.
Yeah.
So I would. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off, man. I'm sorry.
No, go on. It's my bad.
No. I was just gonna say I'd love to keep this going. It's a 90-minute show.
We're
actually, yeah, we're running out of time. So I want to just kind of reach out to you here. Is there tell the people where to find you, where to find DOA, what you got going on. I know you guys got the thing going on in August. I'm gonna be there. And
oh really?
Oh yeah, I said I answered a tweet he had who's going to be there. I was like, yeah, me. so I will be there next month. So hopefully I get to meet you guys.
On the opposite side of the world, but
it does present a problem.
Just a little bit.
So yeah, tell the people where to find you guys at.
So we are currently on Artifact Records. We just released an album June 10th. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can actually buy our albums on any digital outlet. Some retail stores. I don't know if retail stores even sell albums anymore. And I mean, you can go to our Bandcamp page, and that has all the different versions of the Antinomian. We have vinyl, CDs with shirts, just everything. But we're pretty much on everything that's online.
Rock on. So there you go. And it's Dawn of Ashes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So
pretty much
pretty easy.
Search Dawn of Ashes, guys, and you'll find them. You'll find their Facebook page, YouTube, Bandcamp, Wiki, all that sort of stuff. Don't take too much stock in the Wiki. It looks like it's a little bit outdated, and some of the information doesn't look overly correct as one for Wiki. But all the information's there. You can definitely find them. Highly recommend the latest album. Antinomian.
Really good stuff.
Check it out on Spotify. Check out the music videos. Great band. Love it to bits. Again, Kristof, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it very, very much.
Of course, and I'll do that other interview whenever you guys.
Yeah, I will be hitting you up for that. Yeah, I will be hitting you up for that soon. So
right on.
So again, thank you, and have a wonderful day, man.
You too.
We'll catch
Appreciate
you later.
It.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was Kristof from Dawn of Ashes. Awesome. That was absolutely amazing.
That dude is so laid back, man.
Yeah, he's so cool.
Relaxed, so laid back.
I loved it. I wish we had more time. Obviously, time differences kind of restrict kind of things, But chat, thank you for being here. You people out in podcast land, this will be up tomorrow. This will be up tomorrow for your re-listening pleasure. Okay. We didn't get to touch on Marilyn Manson, but who cares? We had Kristof Bathory out here. Yeah, we'll do that next week. Yeah, so,
Just a quick tidbit. Next week we will be talking about the new album from Marilyn Manson, due to release supposedly and controversially on September 11th, potentially.
Yeah, so that's what's being said. So we kind of dig into that.
It's on his official website, so it must be true.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean that, and as anybody knows, Marilyn Manson's huge into numerology and the meaning of numbers. So there's a reason behind that. That's not
definitely be a reason behind it.
Yeah, that's not just because. So guys, that's going to be it for us for this evening. Thank you very much for joining us out in the interwebs. Shoot us some email at baalcommunity@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions, anybody you'd like to have. Yep, join the Discord. Right, buy our clothing. Buy the clothes.
Buy our merch.
Right? Buy the clothes. It's threadless.baalclothing.com. Wait, or no, baalclothing.threadless.com. I fucked that up. Fucking buy our shit.
Twitter too, guys. BAAL Community on Twitter. Check us out. Hit us up with a follow. Make sure you do all the good stuff. Again, we're everywhere. We're on Discord. We're on Twitter. We got the BAAL show every week, every Thursday night.
Razor Wings.
Coming out.
One quick thing. You might have screwed up the spelling on that, but we're stealing that. It's no longer a talk show. It is a stock show. I love that. That's awesome.
That's canon.
It's a stock show.
We're gonna stalk your ass.
So that is the new official title of what we're doing. It's not a talk show.
BAAL
It's a
stalk show.
The BAAL stock show. Where'd that come from? It's an inside joke. So everybody, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. All right, and
Stay
we'll see
safe,
you
everyone.
guys. We'll see you guys next week. All right, peace.
Rock on.